Go, 182. First thing we're going to start is finding slope on a graph or a table. First sentence, slope is a rate of change. Yesterday we talked about rates of change. Slope is interchangeable with that phrase rate of change. Sometimes they call it slope, sometimes they call it rate of change. Slope can be positive, meaning it's slanting upwards, or it can be negative. Just like you read a book, you always start reading a graph on the left-hand side. So if you look at a line from the left to the right and it's pointed upward, it may not be very steep, but both of those are positive slopes. If you look at a line from left to right and it's pointed downward, again, maybe not very steep, those are going to be negative slopes. So one thing I always encourage people to do is before you have to find a slope, if you actually have a graph of something, look at it and go, is it going up or is it going down? So that you know, should I get a positive answer or a negative answer? Slope is rise over run. Rise over run. Rise is the vertical change, and this seems really strange, but you actually can rise up or you can rise down. And we're going to talk about the word up versus the word down. And your run is a horizontal change, left and right. So every single time today that we talk about moving on a line, we will always talk about our rise before we talk about our run. We will talk about how far up or down we have to go before we talk about how far left or right we're going to go. Okay? So if we look at this treadmill, everybody agree if I start on the left side and work my way to the right, which direction is it pointing? Up or down? Up. So I know that my slope should be positive. Slope is rise over run. This treadmill went up 10 inches for a rise, and the left to right horizontal change is 48. So we end up with 10 over 48. Always reduce your fractions today. They divided a 2 out. We got 5 over 24. So let's read got it A. A hiking trail rises 6 feet for every horizontal change of 100 feet. What is the slope of the hiking trail? Slope is rise over run. Rise over run. Now there's a key word in this that's going to tell us which number goes in the numerator or which number goes in the denominator. What is it? Rises. Okay? If your trail rises 6 feet, that's going to go with rise and is going to be in your numerator. Horizontal change is your run. That's your left to right change, which is 100. Could I leave my answer as 6 out of 100? What can I divide by? And I wind up with, can I leave that? It doesn't reduce any further. Nicely done. My slope is 3/50. Okay? Oh, excuse me. Off to the left, put a little star by this post-it here. Translating rise and run. And here's where our keywords come into play when I told you direction matters. If you are rising up, you're going to have a positive number. If you're rising down, you're going to have a negative number. If you run to the right, you will have a positive number. If you run to the left, you will have a negative. So we talk about direction words here a lot. Up versus down, left versus right. Okay? Go to the right-hand side, page 183, smack dab in the middle. You got it B and C, a graph and a table. Everybody there? All right. They want us to find the slope of this line. First off, starting on the left and tracing that line to the right, which direction is it headed? Up. So I know I better get a positive answer for this. Agreed? Okay. We always start on the left. So they give us 2 points here. We always want to start on the left closest to Mrs. Weiss's room. And slope is rise over run. Rise over run. So from this point, ignore the dashes. Ignore the dashes. Am I going to rise up or rise down if I'm trying to get to this point? Up. Now be cautious. Listen carefully what I'm going to ask you. If you put your pencil at this point, how many grid lines do you have to go up? 1, 2, 3. Everybody agree 3? up 3. Now I'm in this corner right here. Should I go left or should I go right? Right. How many? 4. Everybody agree 4? Up. Positive or negative 3?
Positive.
Right. Positive or negative 4?
Positive.
Positive. Can I reduce 3/4?
No.
Your slope of that line is 3/4, which is positive, and we said that line should be rising. Okay? Tables yesterday, we worked with a lot of them. Yes? Okay? Same thing as yesterday. What is my change from -6 to -2? +4. -2 to +2. 2 to 6. -2 to -1. -1 to 0. 0 to 1. Okay, here's the big question of the day. Think about yesterday. Which letter goes on top, X or Y? Y on top. So which number goes on top? 1/4, 1/4, 1/4. When these are all the same, what's that phrase we use? They're linear, that's true. There's another word that means the same. Constant, constant, constant. Can you reduce 1/4?
No.
No, your slope is 1/4. Okay, thus far, what questions do you have? Something that frustrates people on this graph, don't count the dashes. Somebody this morning was like counting the dashes. Actually, I hate that they give you that dotted lines there. Ignore them. Always rise. Turn around. Okay, always rise before you run. And the table's just like what you did yesterday. Agreed? Okay. Here is the slope formula. Put a box around it. This is so important. Why they use the letter M, I will never know. They always do, and they forever will. The slope formula is something that will show up in every single math class from here until you're done taking math classes, and it might show up in other classes like science as well. So what this slope formula says is M is slope. Look at what letter's on top. Y. Y2 minus Y1 over X2 minus X1. And people panic right away. They're like, oh my gosh, what are those 2's and 1's? They're labels. They're saying take the Y value from the second point and subtract the Y value from the first point. Take the X value from the second point and subtract the X value from the first point. Ultimately, you have to remember, Y is on top, X is on bottom, and you're always subtracting. You have to have this memorized. Tuesday, you have a quiz. 1 week from today. You have to have this memorized. I think you'll do it enough today that you'll have it memorized by the end of the day. Okay? Top of page 184. Got it? D. Ms. Hoff is going to do the work over here on the side under that post-it because there's not enough space right here. So this says, find the slope between the two given points. One of the points is A and one of the points is B. Otherwise, A and B mean absolutely nothing to us. They're just labels. The first thing Ms. Hoff suggests that you do is label X, Y, X, Y. This way you remember the first number in that ordered pair is the X value. The second number is the Y value. Then I would always start with just that very first Y value. Ooh, first we should probably write the slope formula. M equals Y2 minus Y1 divided by X2 minus X1. So I highlighted this Y value of 2. That's the first number that I'm going to start with. So I'm going to take 2 minus, what's my other Y value? 3 divided by, because I started with that Y value, I have to stay in that point and start with that X value. 2 minus, what's my other X value? 5. I'm always subtracting. Y on top, X on bottom. So now we actually subtract. 2 minus 3, -1. 2 minus 5. Negative 3. A negative divided by a negative is a positive. Then I get 1/3. Can I reduce 1/3? Your slope is 1/3. Now, where it gets tricky is when we start putting in a bunch of negatives. Look at got it E. They want us to find the slope between J and K. So first I'm going to label X, Y, X, Y. My slope formula is Y2 minus Y1 divided by X2 minus X1. Ms. Hoff suggests to pick the very first Y they give us. What's the very first Y they give us? Negative 4. So I write negative 4 minus, what's my other Y value? Negative 2. Now be cautious. You're subtracting a negative 2. Make sure you keep track of all those negatives. If I started with negative 4 as my Y, what's the X value I start with? Negative 7. Negative 7 minus, what's my other X value? Negative 3. Now these negatives get a little bit more confusing. So right here, when I'm subtracting a negative, what does that really mean? I'm adding a positive. Because they're next to one another, we're going to add them. Should I change the negative for the 4? No. So carefully think. Negative 4 plus 2. Negative 2. In the denominator, same thing. I'm subtracting a negative. The two negatives are right next to each other. So I'm adding a positive. Negative 7 plus 3. Can I reduce this? A negative divided by a negative is there a number that divides out of both? If I divide a 2 out, I end up with 1/2. Y on top. Y on top. Good so far? Let's look at number 1. Find the slope of the storage shed's roof. Everybody take 1 second before you do anything and look at the slope of the storage shed's roof. What can you tell me about it? It's going to be negative. Nicely done, Aspen. It's going to be negative because it's pointed downwards. Okay? Rise over run. Always start on the left. Say I start here. Do I need to rise up or rise down to get to the other side of the roof? Rise down. How far? 3 feet. Do I need to go left or do I need to go right? I went down. Now I need to go right. How far? Say it again. 15 feet. Down 3. Positive or negative 3? Negative 3. Down is negative. Right 15. Positive or negative? Positive. Can I reduce? Divide out a 3. I wind up with negative 1/5. You guys do 2 and 3. I'm going to draw you back in just a minute. Do 2 and 3. Just like B and C in our examples. Before you even make a calculation on number 2, which direction is your line headed? Up. What does that tell you? You should get a positive answer, just to double check. We need to start furthest to the left, closest to Mrs. Weiss's room. And here's one of the times that Miss Hoff hates that they put those dashes on there. Because really, I always want you to rise before you run. So if I start at this dot, do I rise up or rise down? Up, how many?
4.
4, should be 4. Up 4. Now I'm here. Do I run left or run right? Right. How far? 3. Whoops. Up 4, positive or negative 4? Right 3, positive or negative 3? Can I simplify 4/3? Did I get the positive slope that I should have? Because it's going up into the right. I don't like that they have these dashes down here. I think they throw you off. Ignore their dashes. Always rise before you run. 3, this is just like yesterday, finding your change. You should have had a +1, and a +1, and a +1, and a +2, +2, +2. Biggest question of the day, which number goes on top? Y, which is 2 over 1. Can you simplify that?
No.
Technically, it is 2. But I mean, if you leave it as 2 over 1, I will not complain about that whatsoever. If you simplify it to 2, I'm good with that as well. All right, try 4 and 5 with the slope formula on your own. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, just like we did on Got It D and E. All right, on number 4, my guess is you started with -2. -2 minus 4 over -3 minus 5. Should I make those two negatives a positive sign? There's two negatives. Why not? They're not right next to one another. -2 minus 4 is actually -6. -3 minus 5 is -8. A negative divided by a negative is a positive. Can I reduce 6 and 8? Divide out a 2. My slope is 3/4. xy, xy. 5 minus -3 divided by -6 minus 3. How about those two negatives? Yes, they're next to each other, so I'm going to add a positive. I get 8 over -9. Should I slash that negative? Why not? There's only one of them. This technically is the correct answer. Miss Hoff has one request. Will you move the negative to the numerator? And you don't have to technically, but as we progress through this chapter, it's going to be more beneficial to you to have the negative in the numerator. 1 through 5 is exactly what your homework is going to be today. I have touched base on everything that you're going to see. Questions? Did I change some of your minds about slope? You can handle this? I believe you can. I'm going to let you work for a little bit, and then we're going to grade the first chunk together to make sure everybody's on the right track, and then we'll grade the rest of it tomorrow when you come to class. Tomorrow's extra practice on this on Alex. Okay, here's your homework. 1 through 8, 11, 16 through 24. 1 through 8, 11, 16 through 24. When I think everybody, or when I see that everybody has gotten 1 through 8 done, we'll go over those before you leave today. Cool? All right, the hour is yours.